Hello students, welcome. This is Dr. Mercado speaking, and we are continuing Chapter 2, which deals with analyzing transactions. In this particular lecture, we are going to be covering exercise 220A, which deals with preparing a trial balance. Okay, this is Accounting 2401, Principles of Financial Accounting. As stated in every presentation, I know I sound like a broken record, but please make sure that you read. Okay, so like I stated, this particular problem that we're going to be covering today deals with the trial balance. Okay, so what happens is errors can occur in posting debits and credits from the journal to the ledger. It's very common that people make mistakes. Either they transpose a number, they enter it incorrectly, either as a debit or a credit. They enter it into the incorrect account. There are many things that can happen when we are transferring information from the journal to the ledgers. Okay. Also, because the transaction is recorded in your journal, it does not mean it's 100% accurate, even if you recorded, even if you're in balance. So even if your debits and credit balance, it doesn't mean that the entry was done correctly. Maybe you posted it to the wrong account. Maybe you posted it incorrectly as a credit and it should have been a debit. Okay, so there is really no guarantees. Okay, so when we're preparing a trial balance, the double entry accounting requires that debits must always equal credits. The trial balance basically verifies the equality of your debit and credit transactions, okay? And there are several steps that happen when we prepare a trial balance, okay? Step number 1, we list the names of the company, the title of the trial balance, and the date the trial balance is prepared. Okay, that's the heading. Step 2, we list the accounts from the ledger and enter their debit or credit balance in the debit or credit column of the trial balance. This is done in numerical order, just as how the general ledgers are set up. That is how you're going to transfer them over to your trial balance. You're going to total the debit and credit columns of the trial balance on step number 3. And the final step is to verify that the total of the debit column equals the total of the credit column. Okay? Now, when we are preparing the trial balance, we need to know the normal balances of the accounts in case we are transferring the information over, we identify a discrepancy, we can catch it and figure out what's going on. Okay? You must know. Exhibit 3 from your book, you must know it by heart, whether it be for recording your journal transactions, transferring your journal to your ledger accounts, and then lastly, preparing your trial balance. This is something that you need to know by heart, okay? You need to know the normal balances of the accounts and what kind of transaction, whether it be a debit or credit transaction, does occur depending on the type of accounts. Remember, we have assets, liabilities, and stockholders' equity. Under stockholders' equity, we've got common stock, retained earnings, dividends, revenue accounts, and expense accounts. So you need to know the effects of the transactions for each type of account. Okay, so this is a map. This is the map that I referred to that we must know. Print it out. You can use it on your assignments. You can use it on your tests. You need to be familiar of how it works. Okay, now let's jump over to exercise 220. It says errors in trial balance. It says identify the errors in the following trial balance. All accounts have normal balances. Okay, so they've given us a trial balance, and as you can see, the trial balance is in balance. But there are some errors that we need to figure out. Okay, so basically what I did is I copied the information over. I copied its ensemble company, and this is the unadjusted trial balance as of December the 31st, 20Y8. Okay, so let me go ahead and we're going to start by transferring the information over in the same sequence, okay? So we're going to start off with cash, okay? Can we locate any errors with cash? Well, first of all, let me see if I can bring this over. I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it over here. Okay. Let me make this a little bit smaller, and that way I can try to fit it in as much as I can. Okay, so cash is an asset account right here. Okay, cash is an asset account. Okay, the normal balance of my asset account is debit, so my balance should be on the debit side. Is it on the debit side? Yes, it is. I'm just going to bring that over. Okay, I don't find any errors there. The next thing we have is accounts receivable. Now, what kind of an account is accounts receivable? By now, we should know that accounts receivable is an asset account. Okay? The normal balance of an accounts receivable should be a debit. Now, where do they have the accounts receivable here? They have it under credit. That is a mistake. The balance should not be on the credit side. It should be on the debit side. Accounts receivable is an asset account, and the normal balance of an asset account is a debit. So let's make that correction and let's move that over. 123,500, remember, accounts receivable, asset, and therefore the normal balance should be a debit. Next we have prepaid insurance. Prepaid insurance is also an asset account. The normal balance is a debit, so I'm going to bring that over. There is no error there. So far, the only mistake that we've identified is accounts receivable. Okay, I'm going to highlight the errors that we've identified. Okay. Next, we have equipment. Okay. Equipment is an asset. The normal balance for an asset is a debit, so we're going to bring those 300,000 over. Okay. Then we have accounts payable. Now, what kind of an account is accounts payable, class? Okay. Accounts payable is a liability. Okay. Liability. Okay. So my accounts payable is a liability. So liabilities have a normal balance of a credit. The green ones are the normal balance. So anytime you have a liability, the ending balance for that account should be a credit for liabilities. Here they have accounts payable under the debit column, which is wrong. That should be a credit. Liabilities should have a normal balance of a credit. So I'm going to move that over to my credit side. So this is another error that we identify. Okay. Salaries payable. Anything that has the word payable is a liability. Okay. Salaries payable, accounts payable, notes payable, mortgage payable. Anything that has the word payable, liability, normal balance, credit. So here we have salaries payable, credit of 4,800. That is correct. We're going to keep that as is. Okay. Common stock. Okay. Let's look at our common stock. Okay. Common stock is right next to it. Okay. Common stock is right here. The normal balance for my common stock is a credit. Okay. So look at your common stock section. The normal balance in green is a credit. That is the normal balance. Look, it says their balance. That's where the balance should be. So if we look at the problem, common stock is on the credit side, which is correct. We're going to leave that as is. Okay. Retained earnings. Okay. Retained earnings, the one next door, has a normal balance of a credit as well. Okay, so let's look at our retained earnings balance, and it's a credit, which is correct, of 137,200. Okay. Then we have dividends. Okay. Let's look at our dividends. Okay. Dividends is down here. Dividends has a normal balance of a debit. Debit. My dividends are showing on the credit side, which is incorrect. We need to put that on the debit column. That is where my dividends should be. So I should have dividends of $5,000 as a debit. Okay. There we go. $5,000. Okay. Next we have service revenue. Okay. Revenue accounts. Let's look at our revenue accounts. We have it right there. Okay, let's look at our revenue account. The normal balance for my revenue accounts is a credit. Okay, credit for revenue accounts. For my revenue accounts, it's showing 1,216,000 as a credit, which is correct. So there's no error there. We're good. Okay, 1,216,000. There we go. Okay. Then we have salary expense. Okay. Let's look at our expenses. Our expenses have a normal balance of a debit. Okay, all of our expenses should have a debit balance. So salaries expense would be $660,000. Okay, which is correct. They have it on the debit column. Next, we have advertising expense. Remember, what did we say expenses? Expenses have a normal balance of a debit. All of your expense accounts should have a debit. Let's look at advertising expense. $275,000 as a credit, which is wrong. That should be under the debit column. So let's move that over to my debit column. So that is a mistake that we figured out. Okay. And then we have miscellaneous expense. Okay. And we have a debit of $16,600, which is correct. Okay. Now we can get our totals. Okay. I'm going to add my debit column and I'm going to add my credit column, and we should be in balance. Okay. There we are. Okay. We are in balance. Okay. $1,450,000. Okay. We are in balance. Now let me check this real quickly. I just want to make sure if they even did the math correctly on this side over here. So we've got 42,900 plus 27,000 plus 300,000 plus 52,000 plus 660 plus 16,600. You see, it doesn't even give me the 801,500. If we add the debit balances, let me add it again just to make sure. 42,900, maybe I did a typo. 27,000, 300,000, 52,000, 660, and 16,600. Yeah, you see, if we look at if we were to add the debit balances on our original trial balance, the balance that they have there is 1,801,500. If we add all of the debit numbers, it gives me 1,098,500. Now let's see if we add the credit numbers. 123,500, 4,800, 40,000, 137,200, 5,000, 1,216, 275. Okay, this side is correct. 1,801,500. But if we were to add the debit side, it does not give me. So my credit balance side is 1,801,500, yet my debit side, if we run the math, does not give me that. So not because someone prepared a trial balance and it tells you you're in balance, the first thing we should do is just double check that my debits and credits do equal, which they don't. Okay, so that trial balance is not in balance. Okay, now we've went ahead and we used the information provided and we identified that these four accounts had been originally recorded in the original trial balance incorrectly. We moved those balances, we shifted those balances to the correct normal balance, and now my debits and credits are equal. Okay, so the moral of the story is don't trust anybody with their work. Make sure that you double check the debit and the credit column information that they balance. Second of all is know your normal balances of your accounts. That way when you're reviewing the trial balance, you make sure that the accounts are have the right balance reflected. Okay? Use your Exhibit 3 from your book to be able to identify what is the normal balances of each of the accounts. Okay? So we have completed the adjusted trial balance, the unadjusted trial balance. We've updated it and we've identified the errors. Okay, so for the first error that we figured out was that my debit balance column did not equal my credit balance column. Okay, remember my debit balance column came out to 1,098,500. I believe that was the number. Let me see. Yes, so my debit balance column came out to 1,098,500, while my credit balance column came out to 1,801,500. So to start off with, my debits and credits were not in balance. Okay. Now the trial balance should be dated December the 31st. Now, this trial balance says for the year ending December the 31st. That is incorrect. Okay? The trial balance should simply read, we're doing it for a point in time. We're doing the trial balance as of December the 31st. Not for the year ending, but for the actual day of December the 31st. So that's the second error that we figured out. Okay? The date needs to be updated. Okay, let me highlight this. That way we can also know that there was an error with the date. Here they put for the year ending, which is incorrect. Trial balances are for a point in time, which was December the 31st. Okay, the third thing we found out was the accounts receivable was recorded under a credit balance when it should have been a debit balance. The next thing we have is our accounts payable was recorded under a debit when it should have been a credit. The next thing we have is dividends. Dividends were recorded as a credit when they should be a debit. Okay. Advertising expense was recorded as a credit when it should have been a debit. Okay. And this is the corrected balance. Okay. So we were able to make the necessary corrections, updated the date, made sure that our trial balance was in balance, and we verified that all of the accounts reflected were reflecting the normal balances of each of the accounts. Okay, so I hope this has helped you out. Please make sure that you attempt all of your homework and your quiz. Remember, you have 2 attempts. The highest grade is retained. I encourage you that if you do not do well on your first attempt, you utilize the second attempt to gain more practice and experience doing these problems. You're not going to learn accounting by listening to me talk for hours. You're going to learn accounting by doing it. Okay? I'm giving you 2 tries, and I am keeping the highest grade to entice students to give that second opportunity to try to improve if you didn't perform very well on the first attempt. Remember, the more points you earn, the better. Remember to attempt every single problem because you will only have access to the solutions to the problems that you attempted. Okay, so make sure that you attempt all of your problems. That way you can have access to the correct answers so you can review and prepare for when you are taking your test. All of the problems on your exams come straight out of your homework. Okay, so if you do well on your homework, you will do excellent on your tests. Okay, so that is basically it. Monitor your syllabus to make sure that you know the due dates for each of your weekly assignments. Any questions or concerns, I am here to assist you. That is what I'm here for, to try to help you learn as much as you can and clarify any questions and concerns you have. Okay, I want to wish you all a wonderful rest of your week, and until next time, thank you very much. Bye-bye.